All right, welcome to session 2 of AI Bytes. Our topic today is AI tools to enrich education. Welcome back. How many of you were here at the first session? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. Okay. We had 15 people at the first session, and so we're not quite there, but we're close. So we're just trying to see how many people come back and how many are new. Well, welcome if you're new. So my name is Britta McKenna. I'm the Director of Special Initiatives. With me here today are Neve and Rachel, my interns this year. And so we're going to do a tag team presentation for you today. This is interactive, and so we will be asking you questions throughout the presentation. We'd love your input, as well as we have it followed by a sandbox session. So the first 30 minutes, you're going to learn some things, you're going to see things demonstrated. The last 30 minutes is really you trying things. If you did not bring a laptop, fear not. We have 3 stations. We can bring them to your table. So if you don't have a laptop or you didn't want to open up an account, you can use ours. Okay? All right, let's get started. So our first session was an intro to generative AI. So as a recap, we have cons on the left and pros. So the pros that Sal Khan from Khan Academy featured, he says that he believes that we're at the biggest positive transformation that education has ever seen. And I agree. AI is transforming, whether you know it or not, and I think it will continue to. And he also believes that it's a way to give every student a personal tutor. If you look at it that way, it's a different way of looking at it. And as well as every teacher on the planet, an artificially intelligent teaching assistant. So that's how he views it at Khan Academy. Cons is the introduction of generative AI enables students to use these emerging technologies to do their schoolwork. Any students? Of course you could, or you could use it as a tool. And it's also AI content detection software is imperfect. So know that it is not 100%. It will not detect everything. So that is a thing. And the detection is prone to fault and error at this point because AI is still new. It's still learning. And it will get better as time goes on. Next. All right, today we're going to focus on tools. So let's get right at it. We're going to listen to this next snippet. This is the next section of the Khan Academy. Go ahead.
I'm going to show you the early stages of what our AI, which we call Conmigo, what it can now do, and maybe a little bit of where it is actually going. So this right over here is a traditional exercise that you or many of your children might have seen on Khan Academy. But what's new is that little bot thing at the right. And we'll start by seeing one of the very important safeguards, which is the conversation is recorded and viewable by your teacher. It's moderated actually by a second AI. And it also does not tell you the answer. It is not a cheating tool. Notice when the student says tell me the answer, it says, I'm your tutor, what do you think is the next step for solving the problem? Now if the student makes a mistake, and this will surprise people who think large language models are not good at mathematics, notice not only does it notice the mistake, it asks the student to explain their reasoning. But it's actually doing what I would say not just even an average tutor would do, but an excellent tutor would do. It's able to divine what is probably the misconception in that student's mind, that they probably didn't use the distributive properly. Remember, we need to distribute the -2 to both the 9 and the 2m inside of the parentheses. This to me is a very, very, very big deal, and it's not just in math. This is a computer programming exercise on Khan Academy where the student needs to make the clouds part. And so we can see the student starts defining a variable, left x minus minus. It only made the left cloud part. But then they can ask a Conmigo, what's going on? Why is only the left cloud moving? And it understands the code. It knows all the context of what the student is doing. And it understands that those ellipses are there to draw clouds, which I think is kind of mind-blowing. And it says, to make the right cloud move as well, try adding a line of code inside the draw function that increments the right x variable by 1 pixel in each frame. Now, this one is maybe even more amazing because we have a lot of math teachers. We've all been trying to teach the world to code, but there aren't a lot of computing teachers out there. And what you just saw, even when I'm tutoring my kids when they're learning to code, I can't help them this well, this fast. This is really going to be a super tutor. And it's not just exercises, it understands what you're watching. It understands the context of your video. It can answer the age-old question, why do I need to learn this? And it asks Socratically, well, what do you care about? And let's say the student says, I want to be a professional athlete. And it says, well, learning about the size of cells, which is what this video is about, that can be really useful for understanding nutrition and how your body works, etc. It can answer questions, it can quiz you, it can connect it to other ideas. You can now ask as many questions of the video as you could ever dream of. So, another big shortage out there, I remember the high school I went to, the student to guidance counselor ratio was about 200 or 300 to 1. A lot of the country, it's worse than that. We can use Conmigo to give every student a guidance counselor, academic coach, career coach, life coach, which is exactly what you see right over here. And this is all, we launched this with the GPT-4 launch. We have a few thousand people on this. This isn't a fake demo. This is really in action. And then there's, things that I think it would have been even harder. It would have been a little science fiction to do with even a traditional tutor. There's a student, we run an online high school with Arizona State University called World School, and we have a student who attends that online school based in India, her name is Sanvi, and she was doing a report on The Great Gatsby. And when she was reading The Great Gatsby, Jay Gatsby keeps looking at the green light off into the distance. And she's like, well, why does he do that? She did some web searches, and people have obviously studied this and commented about the symbolism of that, but none of it was really resonating with her. And then she realized that she had Conmigo and that she could talk to Jay Gatsby himself. And so, splendid choice, old sport. I'm now Jay Gatsby, the enigmatic millionaire from Epcot Gerald Classic. And so why do you keep staring at the green light? The green light, old sport. It's a symbol of my dreams and desires, you see. It's situated at the end of Daisy Buchanan's dock, across the bay from my mansion. I gaze at it longingly as it represents my yearning for the past and my hope to reunite with Daisy, the love of my life. And what was cool is, Sanvi said, I had this long conversation. She called him Mr. Gatsby. And at the end, she actually apologized for taking his time, which I thought was very polite of her. But you can imagine this unlocks learning literature, learning, you can talk to historical figures. We're even probably going to add an activity. You can talk to like the Mississippi River. It brings things to life in ways that really were science fiction even 6 months or a year ago. Students can get into debates with the AI. And we've got, here's the students debating whether we should cancel student debt. The student is against canceling student debt. And we've gotten very clear feedback. We started running it at World School in our lab school that we have, Lab School. The students, the high school students especially, they're saying this is amazing to be able to fine-tune my arguments without fearing judgment. It makes me that much more confident to kind of go into the classroom and really participate. And we all know that Socratic dialogue debate is a great way to learn, but frankly, it's not out there for most students, but now it can be accessible to hopefully everyone. A lot of the narrative, we saw that in the headlines, has been, it's going to do the writing for kids. Kids are not going to learn to write. But we are showing that there's ways that the AI doesn't write for you, it writes with you. So this is a little thing, and my 8-year-old is addicted to this, and he's not a kid that really liked writing before. But where, you can write a horror story, and it says, ooh, a horror story, how spine-tingling and thrilling. Not only is it will then, and so they collaborate to hopefully. So this is a little thing, and my 8-year-old is addicted to this, and he's not a kid that really liked writing before. But where, you can write a horror story, and it says, ooh, a horror story, how spine-tingling and thrilling. Let's dive into the world of eerie shadows and chilling mysteries. And this is an activity where the student will write 2 sentences, and then the AI will write 2 sentences. And so they collaborate together on a story. The student writes, Beatrice was a misunderstood ghost. She wanted to make friends, but kept scaring them by accident. And the AI says, poor Beatrice, a lonely spirit yearning for companionship. One day she stumbled upon an old abandoned mansion, etc., etc. I encourage y'all to, hopefully one day try this. This is surprisingly fun. Now, to even more directly hit this use case, and what I'm about to show you, everything I showed you so far is actually already part of Conmigo. What I'm about to show you, we haven't shown to anyone yet. This is a prototype. We hope to be able to launch it in the next few months. But this is to directly use AI, use generative AI, to not undermine English and language arts, but to actually enhance it in ways that we couldn't have even conceived of even a year ago. This is reading comprehension. The student's reading Steve Jobs' famous speech at Stanford. And then as they get to certain points, they can click on that little question, and the AI will then Socratically, almost like an oral exam, ask the student about things. And the AI can highlight parts of the passage. Why did the author use that word? What was their intent? Does it back up their argument? They can start to do stuff that, once again, we never had the capability to give everyone a tutor, everyone a writing coach to actually dig into reading at this level. And you could go on the other side of it. We have a whole workflow that helps them write, helps them be a writing coach, draw an outline. But once the student actually constructs a draft, and this is where they're constructing a draft, they can ask for feedback, once again, as you would expect from a good writing coach. In this case, the student will say, let's say, does my evidence support my claim? And then the AI not only is able to give feedback, but it's able to highlight certain parts of the passage. It says, you know, in this passage, this doesn't quite support your claim, but once again, Socratically says, can you tell us why? So it's pulling the student, it's making them a better writer, giving them far more feedback than they've ever been able to actually get before. We think this is going to dramatically accelerate writing, not hurt it. Now, everything I've talked about so far is for the student, but we think this could be equally as powerful for the teacher to drive more personalized education and frankly save time and energy for themselves and for their students. So this is an American history exercise on Khan Academy. It's a question about the Spanish-American War. And at first it's in student mode, and if you say, tell me the answer, it's not going to tell the answer, it's going to go into tutoring mode. But a little toggle which teachers have access to, they can turn student mode off, and then it goes into teacher mode. And what this does is, it turns into, you could view it as a teacher's guide on steroids. Not only can it explain the answer, it can explain how you might want to teach it. It can help prepare the teacher for that material. It can help them create lesson plans, as you can see it doing right there. It'll eventually help them create progress reports and help them eventually grade. So once again, teachers spend about half their time with this type of activity, lesson planning. All of that energy can go back to them or go back to human interactions with their actual students.
So Conmigo is not widely available. It's still in beta, I believe. And you can apply to get it if you're 18 or older at this point. So he was just demonstrating what it can do. So for the students in the room, you can't get access to it yet. For the faculty and staff in the room, you can. So if you go to Khan Academy and you type in, you can get that tool. But what we're wondering is, how might Conmigo be applied to a classroom environment? Does anybody have any ideas? Students or adults? Yes?
Well, for a proofreading part, it could be especially good for like essays and stuff. So like teachers, proofreading it, or even helping the student with the essays, a lot of work. So having them being able to do that on their own.
So proofreading essays.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Beefing up your essays.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
You can also check maybe is for essays at least you can also kind of act like kind of a writing center tutor in a way. They can check for thesis, you can check for evidence.
Okay.
That's very good.
A writing center tutor. You got your own personal tutor right there. Anybody else? Yes.
Might not help them get into character for what they're researching.
Yeah, get into character. I did like talking to the character. That was kind of different. All right, how might Conmigo impact the teacher and student experience? How would it look different if you had Conmigo, if you're the student? Now what would you do with the teacher? Yes?
It might enhance the teacher and student experience, but maybe the student understand the information more and might be able to learn comes more from Conmigo, but also from the teacher by having the receptive knowledge.
Right, okay. Enhance the teacher, so you would think from your perspective it is going to enhance the teacher-student experience,
Obviously.
right? Is there a teacher that would have a different opinion? Or, anybody? Yes?
I think it seems like it might take the pressure off of both the students, teachers, and create more of a dialogue because students, and they are actually thinking like even younger, high school too, but younger, they build a little more confidence. In
Sure, building confidence.
Building that, asking it a question and having it actually give you evidence to support maybe your opinion.
Right? Helping you learn how to have questions.
Yeah, they just like take the edge off both sides and open the dialogue a little more.
How many of you have been someplace in a, if there's only 10 minutes left in class and there's 8 hands up and you don't get called on? Anybody? I think everybody, right? So here is a different way to go about that. So maybe the questions that come up look different. Don't know. Now we have a little feedback. All right, let's move on. Yes, go ahead.
Typing the message, right? So is it like Siri, does it talk?
Does it talk?
Because this one has to read it, this one wants to read it.
Right.
Talk.
It, I believe, can talk. I don't know. It will talk eventually.
Yeah. Because
Like I tell my Siri is a British butler male. I've told it to be that because I want it to be on Downton Abbey, right? So I'm a character and my Siri is a male British butler. So he tells me what to do and I just feel like that's my helper. So I'm guessing you'll be able to do all of those things in the future. Maybe not now, but any other comments before we close this and move on? So what is the connection?
when talk to someone, she shows a social one. It's like kind of
Right. Yes, you still want to connect person to person. Absolutely. And I think maybe it might redefine what human connection time does rather than just answer the questions. Maybe you're applying the knowledge in a new way. Don't know. This is new. We're all learning together. All right, next slide. All right, I'm going to turn this over to Rachel. All right, Rachel.
So this is Notebook LM, and currently this is a new product being developed by Google, and it revolutionizes note-taking, so let's see how it does that.
Engineers did with this to create a more conversational-based note-taking experience. Now, this isn't brand new. Apps like Mem and other tools have added conversational note-taking type technologies, but Google being at almost the forefront, creeping up very fast into this whole AI world, it's super interesting to see. So here's some of the footage Alvaro shot for us, and let's dive into it. So initially, you go ahead and create a new notebook, and this essentially gives you a project to work with. And when you get started, you have to upload a source. A source is essentially a document that lives inside of your Google Drive that allow you to, well, the system will scan it, the Palm technology will scan it, and it'll basically, well, essentially be able to pick out key points and be able to make that document conversational. This is great, for example, what they initially had this for as Project Tail with was the studying option, is being able to have almost like a conversational study system which will allow students to work particularly by asking questions that they find most suitable and extracting that, as well as quizzes, exported notes and stuff like that. But in this example, we're uploading something, Alvaro is uploading something that essentially is about generative software. And what it does is it brings up key topics and questions that is automatically pre-created for us. Now from here you can actually respond with a question back yourself or use one of the auto-generated ones and also export the notes as well as copy it to the clipboard. You can upload more sources within the notebook, which means you can have multiple ones on the go and you can ask as many questions as you find suitable. But the system is designed to answer back in all types of ways. So you can ask for positive differences or negative differences, and it will be able to ask the context of that entire document to be able to produce something. Now,
Okay, so we have Notebook is another one. I know this is not available, right? This is still in alpha. But how might learners use Notebook LM as a studying or learning tool? Yes?
I would say that for those people who write their notes kind of messily, like Notebook LM can help them like organize their thoughts.
Help you organize your thoughts, all right? Anything else? I know it came in, and, you're not exactly sure what it is, but you kind of get the idea. There are apps out there that will actually, you can plug them into Zoom, right? And it'll transcribe your whole Zoom call. It'll take note, you can tell it to take notes, you can tell it to do highlights, so this is already here. You just have to create these plugins for your Zoom. You got to set up. Some of these are already available. This is just a different one. Is this platform an effective tool to manage content, do you think?
I would say absolutely. I mean, if you utilize something like Google Subscribe, where you take a meeting or a call, transcribe it, and you can extrapolate the most important parts of that conversation, or maybe action items. I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations and I go, I know we talked about something and I didn't write it down. What was I talking about? And so then actually something to be able to like list it out for you.
Right, yeah. It's going to be helpful. It's like your assistant, right? Oh shoot, I was too much into that conversation. I should have taken the notes or the action items or highlighted. I got on the phone call, right?
Another thing is this probably is going to be integrated with Google Drive as well. And that's going to help a lot because you can have set up multiple different folders with friends and even classroom stuff. Here are all meeting notes and you can extrapolate from there. If a student misses a class, you can just click it and extrapolate it to that Google Drive folder.
So creating things, the content in Google Drive it can read from, right, in a reference. Yeah, for teachers, that's also useful. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, we'll move on to tool number 3. We've got 4 tools, and the 4th one we're actually going to let you try. Okay, next.
So this third tool is called Robot, and basically it's kind of like a mental health tool that utilizes generative AI.
Need to get something off your chest? Meet Wobot, the friendly little bot who's ready to listen 24/7. Wobot's been trained in cognitive behavior therapy and an approach to mental health that is all about identifying distortions in your thinking. Wobot doesn't do therapy, but he can be your guide to help you figure out things on your own. Oh, and he's effective. Some nice people at Stanford University demonstrated that chatting to Wobot for 2 weeks led to significant improvement in mood. Every day he asks how your day is going, how you're feeling, and what you're up to. He builds an emotional model of you over time and can help you see patterns in your mood. As he learns about you, he'll teach you things, like useful strategies and practical tools that have been shown to work. You're not troubling him at all. Honestly, he has nothing else to do. So let Wobot annoy his way into your heart and start feeling better today.
All right, what are we thinking about that one? Creepy, yes.
I was thinking a kind of creates a virtual clone of you.
A virtual clone of yourself. Yeah. Anybody else? I heard you were whispering. What were you whispering?
That's creepy, but kind of good.
Creepy, but kind of good. Yes, students.
I think a personal, human to human, conversation is probably going to be more important and useful than
Oh, I like hearing that from the students. So saying that maybe a person to person is more useful.
Yeah. Plus, it said that it's not even a therapist.
It's not a therapist. Yes.
I feel like there's something therapy in mental health where you're talking to another person. Because if I was having trouble with a lot, I feel like it would be kind of off-putting because I know it's responding to me, but it's not really feeling anything. It doesn't really understand.
Right.
It's just a lot of it's a lot of other people's ideas, I guess, versions
So, right, so it feels a little off-putting talking to a chat bot, especially when it's emotional or mental health. Yes?
I love it.
Okay, you love it? Tell me why you love it.
I think it can logically and calmly get somebody out of their sort of thinking. Where if somebody's coming to me with their problems, I'm like emotionally into it and I'm not as like logical and calm about it. So it can kind of get people out of just their
So it removes the emotional part, which are, humans can be very emotional, and it logically can talk you through something, which sometimes you need.
Or just like you're distorted thinking.
Distorted thinking, okay, yes.
I think we should have a evidence-based society. Essentially, somewhere I'm doing therapy, not doing as much, but still helping students and others and other adults cope with some smaller issues and stress.
So you think there's a place for it in a kind of a hierarchy of needs. How many of you think IMSA students, this poll for your students, how many IMSA students would use something like this? You think? It's all right. One? Are you like putting your hand halfway up? No? No? Yes? 2? 3? So maybe half of you think IMSA students would use it. Right? I don't know. I might try it just to see what it tells me to do. Yes?
I kind of like the part about identifying patterns of thinking, especially if they are negative.
Yes.
Kind of, oh yeah, two things to get low when I think about this.
Right. Yes. Yeah. How many of you have that one friend that you call or text when you need to talk? Got that one person? What do you do when that one person's not available? Maybe you internalize it. Maybe you might go to something like this. I don't know. I'm not pro or con. I'm just trying to look at some of these things to say, would it be useful? I guess until you try it, you don't know. But that's just something on a whole different scale. Yes?
I maybe wouldn't recommend it for like my teenagers, but for my little kid, I'd be like, oh, this is great.
Oh, okay. Maybe not for teenagers, but for little kids. Okay. All good thoughts. All right, next. We got our last one.
So,
Okay, go ahead.
so last week I know we experimented a bit with ChatGPT for those of you who were here, and Bing AI is similar to ChatGPT, but it integrates various OpenAI technologies. The first of which being GPT-4. So that essentially is effective, better cognitive thinking, better mathematics, and less prone to things like hallucinations, which are where the language model uses information from the training set that's faulty. However, one of the most important and one of the most promising features that I think Bing AI has that really would revolutionize my day-to-day life is that it can create graphics for you, which is wonderful because I often do spend a lot of time making graphics, whether that be for some club or for some project where, oh, I have to like design a graphic or draw a graphic. Bing AI uses ChatGPT's DALL-E feature to take a text input and turn it into a graphic. So we'll be experimenting with that more in our sandbox session, but we'd love to hear your input on what do you think that this graphic design tool could be used for? Would you use it in your day-to-day life? How do you think that's important?
How many have actually used a graphic design AI tool? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, good. Let's hear from those that have used it. What do you use it for?
I just heard about it and I was messing around with it. I think it was pretty cool. I used DALL-E like on my website, and so it has like a limit of period. I don't know if it has that. I don't think it does.
Okay, so you use DALL-E on the OpenAI for just messing around to see what it can do. How many else mess around with it just to try it? Okay.
And actually now DALL-E has been integrated into so many different platforms. So I know Canva, I use Canva very often. They have their AI feature now, which is really interesting, especially since it's really helpful due to the fact that Canva is a very messy software, I think, overall. There's a bunch of different tools. There's a bunch of different ways to make designs, and often it takes a very long time. which is why I think being able to streamline that for something so simple as just putting in a couple words or telling the machine what you want it to do, and it'll come up with this graphic for you. That's a really big time saver.
Nate, can you tell them what you talked to me about today? Where did these images come from that they generated? How did they get them to actually show up on your screen?
So, I mean, first of all, it operates very similarly to ChatGPT. So, all of these technologies, they have a data set. So, a large language model would, of course, use language. So, almost all publicly available information that comes in textual form can be accessible by ChatGPT, and it'll compile that. DALL-E 3 does something similar. So, it'll look online, it'll look really anywhere it can find images. And for something that matches your inputs, it will compile an image that's completely original, but completely based off of already created work. Which, really, could you consider that creativity is one of the big ethical questions involved in AI art? Because if it's completely based off of previous work, then is it really creative? Of course, you could also argue the same about human work. Human artwork is also based off of some experience in life, and through that, could you question that as creativity or not?
Does anybody have any thoughts on how you would use this? Because we're going to go ahead and move into the session where you get to try it. Okay, want me to move forward?
So this is just, I guess, a disclaimer, but while there are so many AI tools out there that have so many different applications, it's also important to understand that new generative AI is arriving daily, whether we are ready for it or not. So we have to consider all of these tools and their implications, especially in education, because so many of these tools have positive or negative implications for the state of education right now. And that's important to consider because AI is rapidly emerging. Really, there's nothing we can do about it. We have to adapt to these new technologies. So all of the products you have seen here are now in development. There are some that are accessible to you. Conmigo, the beta version, is accessible if you're 18 or up. There are two options for that. You can subscribe to the newsletter or you can donate $99 a year. And then there are also Bing AI. Bing AI is available with anybody with a Microsoft account. And most are not widely available to the public to try, however. So Google Notebook LM has a large wait list, and Wobot, I think, is still in development. So now we'll take a look at our sandbox session, which is experimenting with Bing AI. And a little plug for next session. Next session, we're really going to get into AI as a software. And so next session, which is on November 15th, we're calling it DIY AI 101. So we really encourage you to come, and we will be developing our own AI through OpenAI. It will be general, but in the following sessions, we'll be able to branch out and add some of your own personal twists to AI. No coding experience is required. It'll be very simple, but if you are excited about coding, that's also something that we'd love to get into. So we really encourage you to be there. So the sandbox session is Big AI. So now we're going to, really open Bing AI. So if any of y'all have a Microsoft account, you could either use the QR code or the link. Otherwise, you can just open Bing, and there'll be a chat feature in the top right-hand corner. However, if you do not have an account, you can use one of the laptop stations here. So we have